Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of our Conversations in Horror podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. So, if you've been following our program, what we love to do is I like to take an individual horror film, and me and a special guest are going to sit back, relax, have a conversation, kind of critique, analyze this film. Sometimes a good film, sometimes a bad film, sometimes it's everything in between. But what we try and do is we try and do the films that other podcasts aren't currently trying to dissect. I think this is one of the great things about our podcast is that we kind of do all the other types of films that no one else is going to take a crack at, so to speak. And the movie that we're talking about today is not one of those, thank God, because this film has actually been talked about by a lot of people, and there was a good reason why. And we're going to have our conversation on that reason. But before I get to the title of our today's film, I'd like to introduce our special guest. Her name is Sarah Panazzo. I'm going to welcome you, Sarah, to the show today.
Hi, Kevin.
And if you have been a longtime listener to our podcast, you will realize that she and I have done a lot of great conversations on many different types of horror films because she's about as crazy about horror as me, and she will talk about just about anything, which brings me to today's film, which is the 1999 film Audition from director Takashi. I'm gonna screw his name up. I'm so sorry again. And we just went through this 2 seconds before the show. Go, Padago, can you tell me exactly how it was again?
I believe from what I saw it was Takashi Miike, and I apologize if we've butchered this.
Yes, yeah, in which we need to actually get it right and know that it's right because he's done so many amazing horror films that we're hoping that we eventually get around to. But this is the first one that we are getting around to on this program, and it's one of his most well-known films, which is Audition, which is also based on the book by Ryu Murakami. Hopefully I'm not butchering his name because I've actually read several of his books. Due to the fact that I love this movie so much, I read the book, and then I started to read all of his other books. And the book is an amazing book, just like the movie is. So, that being said, I do have to ask you, Panazzo, what your kind of your influences or your kind of what were your original thoughts when you finally saw this film, and when did you actually see the film? Did you see it when it first came out, or did you see it a little bit later?
I hope I did not see it when it first came out because I would have been like 7. That would have been a little bit much, Kevin. But no, I actually just watched it for the first time yesterday.
Oh, okay.
It has been on my list for the longest time. I've been told multiple times that I would love it, and I did. I love that it is very much one of those movies you can go in semi-blind or give people the wrong information about, such as Bone Tomahawk or From Dusk Till Dawn. I've seen a lot of people go in telling their friends that it's like a rom-com or a romantic movie, and then all of a sudden you get to the end. But it's creepy, it's sad, it's disgusting in literal and metaphorical senses. I thought overall it's a very interesting movie. I know it was one of the first original ideas for like torture porn, and that's where Eli Roth got a lot of his stuff for Hostel, so much that the director actually makes a cameo. But I really loved it. There was one scene that I could not stomach, and it's probably not the one you're expecting, and we could talk about that later, but I absolutely love the movie. I would gladly rewatch this. It is perfectly messed up, and it's just a really good movie.
So, for everyone listening, this is how you could tell the age gap between me and my co-host is that I actually saw this movie at the theater when it came out. I was in college when this movie came out, and so I saw this at the theater, at our house theater, mind you. And I had read about the movie before actually seeing the movie. So I don't actually believe that it was on the first run when I actually saw it at the theater, but I did see it at the theater, and I was completely blown away because I was not expecting that ending. And I had not read the books. I had no idea of who the director was because I had not seen any of his previous movies. So I came to this very new, only having read about what the movie was about. And it was something that took me by complete shock because it was not what I was expecting. Now, that being said, in college, I was experimenting with a lot of different films, and this kind of was in my wheelhouse because I started to explore a lot of different foreign films in college. For everyone out there, film school does that to you. It forces you to open your mind up to all the other stuff that's out there other than American produced films. And I was really glad that this was one of those films that I opened myself up to. And it's been my favorite of the directors ever since. So that's how I came to this film. It's just so funny, Panazzo, when you finally saw it, because there's such a huge gap in between years. So it's interesting for me because when I saw it, I was seeing a lot of foreign films like this. Whereas nowadays, it almost seems like the reverse. A lot of foreign films have gotten more extreme with their gore. And a lot of American films are going more towards the huge setup before there's this huge payoff towards the end. And we've discussed this before with previous films from A24, among other companies that are exploring those type of things. So it's interesting to see your reaction and hear what you thought about this movie.
Well, like I've said before, because we've talked about a few of the intro to torture porn or torture gore, and this is literally torture porn. But film itself, especially with horror, has escalated to gore, and this one is very interesting because as much as everything is implied, they actually don't show a ton, which I thought was really well done. It doesn't go for like the super gory money shots or anything like that. Like, it's a lot of implied, and then you see aftermath or beforehand, which is really well done. I mean, the prosthetics for this alone are really impressive. But yeah, it's like we've said time and time again, it's interesting watching the development of torture porn, where this would have been extremely incredibly graphic upon release, whereas now it is much dialed down. And like I said, when we get to the point about what my most disturbed scene is, I would like to know what yours is first at some point, because I'd like to compare, and it's, like I said, probably not what you would expect.
So I'm hoping everyone has at least familiarity with this film, and not so much like Panazzo, who waited until we actually did the podcast to watch the film. But we do need to kind of hint upon some of the stuff that's in the film, starting with some of the plot and stuff like that, for people who may have not seen this film for multiple different reasons, chief among them being that it's a foreign language film, so you have to read subtitles. And I do know there's a lot of people out there who kind of avoid watching films with subtitles, but trust me when I say this movie is definitely worth your time and effort if you don't normally watch films with subtitles. So, I'm gonna play that, put it out there. I may butcher some names while I'm saying this, so please forgive me, everyone out there, as I butchered names. I try not to, and Panazzo will probably correct me when I do butcher them. But essentially, excuse me, it starts off with Haru. What's his name?
Shigeharu?
Yeah, Shigeharu is someone who's like, he's raised his son, and his best friend is trying to get him back into the dating scene, so to speak. And of course, his friend Aoyama am I saying Aoyama?
Yoshikawa?
See, I'm already butchering some of these names. I'm trying not to do that. But his best friend is trying to get him to get back out there in the world, and they've hatched this plan that because he is doing this film, they need to get an actress for the film. And so they kind of hatched this plan to kind of put together a audition. And so Sugiharu is going to do like an impromptu kind of audition for all these actors and try and possibly find someone that might interest him, because he's been off of the so-called playing field for a very long time. Now, he's a character who seems very genuine the entire film. He's a very sympathetic character. He's someone who's spent his entire life after his wife passed away taking care of his son, being the best father he could. So everything that his friend is trying to get him to do, he is not like readily going like pushing ahead to do this stuff because he's such a genuinely he's a genuine character, which is kind
Well,
of
and so that's where our perspectives change.
well, he may have some he may have some stuff that once he meets Aoyama, oh no, Asami, he may have some stuff in there that may force him to change a little bit. But initially, I don't think that he's trying to be underhanded with all this. Do you think he's trying to be underhanded with all this? I don't think he's like his friend at all.
I think it's very hit or miss. I know his friend was the one who was like, no class, stuck up, stupid
Yes.
women. Where are all the attractive girls? And his friend kind of, and Shigeharu is just very much like, yeah, I guess. And then like, there's this nice woman next door that like is helping him out. Later on, you find out that he had a very minor affair with a coworker that he then completely ignored her about. And there's the whole ending that like hints at him having other kind of wants or needs, but the whole movie comes off as very misogynistic.
Oh yeah, well, I will not disagree with that. Because I mean that's essentially the whole setup is very misogynistic.
Yes.
Their ideal of using this whole audition process just to find a woman in this day and age with the whole
Yes.
Weinstein company or
Yes.
Weinstein would be like I don't know if this movie could be made today in the type of tone that it took back then in the 90s.
Well, and that's immediately what I thought of while they were doing it is I was like, this is Weinstein all over the place. And I was like, this is just
You know what? I could see that having watched this now after having all that Me Too movement stuff, you could see that. But when I saw it in fucking 90,
yeah, exactly.
I was more sympathetic towards his character and not so much for his best friend, except for the fact that when his best friend finds out who he is involved with, he says he needs to check her out more. He's trying to, don't get too serious about this girl, all that type of stuff. He's not heeding his friend's advice at all.
Yeah. And he's like, I've got it handled. I've got it handled. Meanwhile, he's like ignoring every red flag that is thrown up there. And I guess we'll get to more of that when we get to the ending because I have questions because I know you've read the book.
Yeah. So, the audition process is an interesting one because Sugiharu meets Asami beforehand. I'm trying to remember how he meets her before.
No, he doesn't really meet her. He's going through all of their profile stuff.
Profiles, yeah, that's right. He's going through their what do you call those things? Resumes, actor resumes. He finds her resume to be very, very like it hits.
It's like the perfect one.
Perfect one. It's like it doesn't really happen that often, and it's a perfect one. So it's very interesting for me to watch the audition process where he's not really interested in any of the other women. He's waiting for her to show up so he can see her for the first time and all that, and see how much of the actual resume matches up with the woman he meets. And so he's not asking a lot of questions from all the other applicants.
I don't think he actually asks a single question. His friend asks almost all of them, and they're all like all over the place from have you ever acted before? Can you do a little bit of acting to how do you feel about being in porn? Have you ever been a prostitute? Do you know any prostitutes? And it's just weird questions that you would not expect in an actual audition process. But when you know that they're looking for a wife, then it makes sense. But it's just
you're absolutely correct. It's very interesting to watch this happen, and this is why I say I find Shigeharu more sympathetic because he's not in that audition process. He's not really engaged like his friend is with trying to ask these questions like that.
Well, and his friend even asks, "Why are you having me ask all these questions?" And that showed me that he was not interested at all, and he's like, no, just keep asking him all these questions for me. And then as soon as Asami comes in is when he like unbuttons his shirt and he starts getting all serious, and it's like, my guy, you're just being a creeper. Like at one point while looking through the resumes and everything, he even like turns his wife pictures around because he knew she would be ashamed of him. And there's a lot of that in this where it's like little moments where it's like, oh yeah, your wife's ghost is telling you not to do it.
So Um, so, and the thing is, even his friend finds the questions he asks Asami very like, okay, this is the first person you've been interested in asking questions, and the looks between them during that process are very telling because his friend starts to think that okay, or in my eyes, he doesn't his friend doesn't have the same outlook on this whole process that he's crafted like he does. Like he's literally is just I don't think he's trying to find him a wife, but just any woman that will interest him enough to get out there. I think that's one of the reasons why his friend pushes him to not be so serious with this one woman and to find out more about her. Which is the only characteristic of his friend that makes you think that he's not 100% that bad dog. What do you call it? Oh my God, you just said the word earlier today.
Misogynistic
character. Like there are some layers to these characters, even though in this day and age right now, if this story had been crafted, they would probably be completely misogynistic. And you might actually see this story told
100%.
Asami's perspective instead of his perspective, which is actually kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, I could totally see it being a lot more one-sided and one-dimensional with these characters 100% if it was made now.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, they'd even probably beef it up and turn it into the beginning is a serious rom-com, and it's like, oops, we bumped into each other in the coffee store and all this other stuff. But
yeah. So, and then what happens after this is that Sugihara and he has a son, and his son comes in and out of the film, and his son over the course of the movie starts to see his father changing, so to speak, being a happier person, all that type of stuff. So whatever is happening in his son's eyes is a good thing, of course, until the end. But I have to make mention of his son because his son plays a huge part in the ending. But also, it's kind of like his son is like, okay, he doesn't have to take care of his son anymore. His son can take care of himself. It's time for him to become independent, which is what this film, one of the themes of this film actually is. You're talking about a guy who spent his entire life doing for others, and all of a sudden he has sacrificed his own well-being, and so now he gets to be a little bit selfish to the detriment of himself, I guess. It's the best way to put it. Okay, so going on from there, I'm trying to think of what's our next highlight, because they do Asami and Sugihara do meet on several different occasions, and they seem innocent at first, but when Sugihara wants to like drop Asami at her place, obviously he doesn't do that. There's these little hints that he ignores these subtle things in the film that she does that are not 100% normal.
Well, and also just the way that she's dressed, which works in both cultures, because like in US culture, a woman wearing white normally means they're very pure, they're whatever, and she keeps having these red glasses of wine, and I'm waiting for it to spill on her. At one point she comes out in the fur red coat when she knows she has him. But then in a lot of the Asian cultures, white is associated with death, so it works out really well on either side, as you know that he is literally flirting with death the entire movie, or it's implying that she's pure but you know that she is not.
Yeah, that was something I picked up on early too, only because I've seen a lot of Asian films in which that whole color dynamic is played in. I don't think I would have noticed it had I not seen that color palette played in, and it's very well done in this movie.
Yes.
I want to say the director's name, Miike. God damn it, I'm gonna screw up his name ever. Miike. He for some of these films when he was becoming more assured of his talent, it starts to show, especially in this film. If you've seen any of his earlier films, he did a lot of movies on video as well. So a lot of his video movies, because that was part of the culture. He did tons of movies on video. Some of these type of aesthetics are not nearly as focused or he doesn't pay nearly as much attention as he does in this film. I think this is probably another reason why this film stands out among all his early films and what he does now, which is simply amazing what he does now. So okay, moving right along because I'm trying to see how many of these incidents we want to talk about in regards to their relationship. A lot of the second act of this movie is the building up of the relationship between these two characters.
Yeah, it's kind of in those three parts where the beginning is them doing the process of the audition. The second one is them dating together, which then ends up culminating in the weekend away. Mm-hmm. And then the third act is the entire bizarro dream sequence-esque thing.
So we keep making mention of maybe like a rom-com, and like the second act does play up a lot of those, but there's always that element of something that's odd or off.
Yes, like weird way she looks at him, or like at one point they're in the restaurant eating together. It's like when they're having the beer, and then all of a sudden it cuts to the rest of the restaurant being empty and it's just them, and then they're still talking, and it cuts to a different restaurant that they're in, and it's like it's very dream-esque of like the multiple dates together. But because he's always wearing a suit and she's always wearing a white dress, unless you're really noticing what they're wearing, it almost seemed like it was just one giant date.
Yes. I actually like that element though. I don't think I really saw that the first time I saw the movie. I don't think I noticed it. I noticed this most recent watch. So even though I really love the movie, I think I've only seen it four, maybe 5 times in the 26 years it's been out. So because Mike has done so many movies that I have not caught up with. I have not gone back to this one. Plus I read the book, so it was one of those things where I just haven't had a chance to go back. So some of these things I noticed while rewatching it, because before now I didn't take the time to see all these little details like that. I did not notice that until the most recent rewatch, and I thought that was really cleverly hidden within the film, and which will reward watchers when they rewatch the film multiple times.
Yeah, because then we get, like we were saying, they do the multiple dates and everything else like that, and then it turns into the weekend away where he's like, I might propose. I don't know what's going on, and she gives a little bit of a story about how she was burned when she was younger, and then they have sex. I think it's kind of hit or miss, and then he wakes up alone the next day, almost as if he's been drugged, and she's just gone.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, and it's one of those things where I think they did have sex, and that's the point at which a lot of what their relationship changes.
Yes, because I know according to the book, it's what he says after sex that's what throws her into her frenzy.
Because before that, we do have the scene where she's in her own place, and there's this big, large sack in the room, which we will learn later on the film that it's very important to. I do remember the first time I saw this movie in this sack, it had not dawned on me what the hell I was watching. I just kind of glanced over it because I was in the movie theater watching. I think there was probably maybe 2-3 other people in the theater with me when I saw this damn movie. I only remember that because most of the movies I saw at this theater were always empty. It's an art house theater. I was always pretty much by myself with maybe a handful of people watching these movies. And so that original scene the first time I saw it was kind of, what the hell? Okay. But it didn't dawn on me what it could possibly be. It's like one of those small little background details that just didn't stick with me. Obviously now, because I've seen the movie 4 or 5 times, it does. But that first time you watch it, and I doubt you had the same impression of me because you're sitting at home watching it. Where
yes,
I was like, what was your impressions of that?
I mean, from this whole start of the body in the bag scene. And I was like, okay, obviously, like you've got the close up, the first shot, and it was one of the notes I made was like the first shot you see her is just waiting by the phone, and it kind of looks like a normal bedroom. And then every time they show her after that waiting at the phone, they show a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's like the body in the bag, and then I was like, is this a dead body? What's going on? And then it moves, so clearly the person is still alive. The house is like semi distressed, destroyed, and it just keeps getting weirder and weirder. Like all of a sudden she's in a leotard one time because she used to be a dancer, and it just gets really weird. And like I said, the further you go into those scenes, like you don't know if it's real, if it's a dream, is he imagining this stuff, are we really seeing it? And it is very trippy.
So you bring up something interesting, because when I watched the film recently, I was trying to figure out if it's what some of the stuff that we're seeing is like wish fulfillment type of thing, stuff that he would like to have, or if it's like just a random dream, or I kept thinking that with this movie that there is this weird between both characters.
Yes.
There is this weird idealized relationship life that they want, but they don't know how to achieve it in a constructive manner. And so a lot of this is how what I saw in the movie is like both of these people they're broken people that find each other, in my opinion.
Yes, 100%.
But they're people who don't have a way of constructively creating a realistic relationship. So they have these idealized ideals that kind of conflict with each other. Like you kind of want them to be together and to get through their shit and have this great, because you think they might be a great couple together, but they can't get past their own stuff.
Yeah, because like when she's like, only love me, I'm like, okay, yes. Well, what is she going to think of his son and his dead wife? And well, we find out. But at the same time, it's like, I know he was like nasty up front, but then does he really deserve all this? Because he wasn't like nasty. It was like weird. It was predator-ish, the way that he went about it. If he would have been open and honest about it from the beginning, yes. I think it would have been different. But does he deserve everything that then may or may not happen to him? No. Is he overthinking everything and he's imagining everything that happens in her apartment? Is it a weird amalgamation of everything he's ever felt and feeling guilty about things he's done in his past? Or what is going on? Did she really do any of that? Or is it all just rumors and hearsay? And it just gets interesting. In the wheelchair a ghost? Or did she actually cut his head off? Or did she not cut his head off? Or what is going on? And it just gets so crazy.
Yeah, it does. And it gets very surreal. It has some very surreal moments in it. And I'm always trying to think if the film it's one of those things where is the film trying to throw the audience off, or is it just something that these characters are just off? And I like to think that this film is not trying to throw the audience off, because we all have seen horror films where right. The filmmakers do a lot of shit to throw the audience off, and it doesn't actually match with the characters. But because I see the characters as both these troubled people who can't get their shit together, they both have these internal conflicts that the only way the filmmakers know how to make them external is to do these type of surreal things.
Yeah, because there's the whole like where you see them on the one date I mentioned with them drinking the beer in the restaurant, and it's very basic, and she's like, oh no family, nothing important. And then there's this whole elongated scene, and it's like, is this everything she wanted to say and she didn't say? Is this what she really said? And he was just like brushed it right off and was like, no, let's keep going, that's totally normal. So it's like in between the two viewings, I know there's always the one perspective versus the other. It'd be interesting to see what the real combination was versus one versus the other, because we saw what he saw and we saw what she saw. but what is the actual truth? And that's where you've got that conflicting viewpoints of the end.
Yes, but I like that aspect of the movie.
I do too. I thought it was really well done. I kept thinking like, wait a second, he's wearing a different costume. What dream is this? And then it was like, it's another dream and another dream and another dream. And it's like, I can't remember which movie it is that does the really good jump scares where it's just like, oh yeah, it was all a dream. And then all of a sudden it's a dream and a dream and the monster's next to him in bed and they wake up again. And it's like, it just kept happening. And it's like, how much of this has actually happened? Is he imagining this or this or this? Like, well, is he laying there dying and imagining actually proposing to her? Just like, that's the last good thought he could have. Is this where the movie actually ends? So that just kept me on the edge of my seat, just the entire ending mixture there.
Which is go ahead.
Of just everything that happened, because like they leave the little breadcrumbs throughout of like all the places she worked or the dance place, the bar, and you find all these people who are murdered or missing or whatever. And then he starts having the weird hallucinatory stuff like the tongue wiggling on the ground. And it's like, okay, how much of this is all real versus imagined? And I love that it's left open to interpretation.
Yeah, I do too. And I also like it because of the fact that a lot of this mystery aspects are not really like your typical mystery. A lot of stuff is acts like are kind of starts off with his friend asking questions that he refuses to ask himself. And then we suddenly get these things through as the film progresses. Because like we said, it starts off very much like it could be a rom-com of some type. But then it kind of slowly morphs into something else because we're just led with the breadcrumbs, like you were saying, throughout the entire film. But by the time we get to the scene where these two have gone off for that weekend trip, and then you have the main character not know exactly, as the audience, we don't know what happened, what didn't happen. All we know is Asami leaves unexpectedly, and everything kind of goes downhill from there. And we kind of see conflicting ideals from then on out, almost like a David Lynch film, kind of.
Very much so. And like with each of these sequences, it could almost end after each of these sequences. And the fact that we get like 4 different endings based on where you stop the movie is insane. But it's so well done. But it's like, the scene where he trips over the body in the bag and then the body crawls out and it's like all the stuff you kind of put together of like the missing body or the extra body pieces at the one crime scene and everything else. Like you notice the lack of limbs that you notice put on somebody else earlier as shoes. It's all, like I said, the breadcrumbs lead you up to this moment. So you should know what you are getting into. And then there's the little bits and pieces that you're not expecting. Like, I was fine with the entire movie until the guy comes out of the bag and he's like, I'm hungry, feed me. And she starts vomiting into the dog dish. Watching it, the rest of the
Is that
bills and everything else. And it's like the on his chest and smooshes all of them in, and it's like extra horrific.
Oh, okay.
Next of the movie.
So we were having some internet issues, unfortunately, so we missed some of the thing. Huh?
Gotcha.
Some of the good pieces that you were talking about. But that's okay, because we're not going to get, for those who have not seen the film, some of that stuff is actually, you probably need to see rather than us tell you all of the people.
Yeah.
Needless.
But yeah, so yeah, the food bowl scene is the scene that got me. End of story.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, vomiting is one thing, and then it went that extra step further, and I was like, nope.
So you might find this funny for you, but the vomiting scene in a movie that got me, and when I was young, that got me and put a little disturbing thing in me, and I don't think I've seen anyone who could go past that, really was the original Fly. movie, not the original Fly, but the Jeff Goldblum, David Cronenberg Fly, where he's vomiting up over I can't remember the one guy's hand, and it's just dissolving, and that's
Oh, I'm fine with that. That was fine.
no, I saw that when I was a kid. Though I saw that when I should have not have been, I should not have watched that when I was a kid. Uh, that stuck with me for a long time, and so any other vomiting scene past that, if it wasn't as bad as that, it doesn't get to me. So I didn't really, that didn't get to me. But when I did watch the movie at the theater, the scene that got to me was, of course, the man falling out of the freaking bag. I was like, what the fuck? I had not seen that in the late 90s. That shit, like, wow, what the hell am I watching here now? Nowadays, you've seen all kinds of limbs and stuff being chopped off of people.
Well, yeah, exactly. Which is why this, like I said, torture porn isn't as big of a shock anymore. But no, like my first vomit scene that I truly remember is the one from Stand By Me, where they have the whole vomiting everything. And I'm like, that was a lot. But like this, the fact that like she pukes it all up, which apparently she really did, is she said she was going to vomit into that bowl, and she did. But then the fact that he eats it is just absolutely disgusting to me. And I just can't. I couldn't stomach it. I had to skip forward like 10 seconds to get through the scene so I would not throw up.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Thankfully, I've seen a lot worse movies since this movie.
No, like everything else I'm fine with, but like cutting off limbs, like everything else in this movie that we've seen, everything with Hostel.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, I do want to mention, since we are talking about missing limbs and stuff like that, I recently finally got around to seeing the movie American Mary. Have you seen that one?
I haven't, but I know it's also inspired by this.
Yes, most definitely. There is a scene of one character. I'm gonna have to put that on our list, so we have to talk about American Mary. But the one scene in the film where she is strategically, surgically cut off lots of limbs and other things on the one person she's keeping captive. That's literally the film I see that was inspired by what happened in this film. Most directly, because she literally is keeping him chained up with no limbs or anything like that. He's just not in a sack.
Yeah.
But pretty much, yeah. I mean, I can see where this film has inspired so many other filmmakers since then. Like we've talked about Hostel already with Eli Roth, and Eli Roth having him come in, the director come in and be in his actual movie.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff like that this film, which in 99 was still, I can't remember when the French extreme cinema came out, but the Japanese and Chinese films, horror films, were very much kind of still on the down low, so to speak.
Yes, and this was definitely after like some of the really hardcore French ones that nobody even talks about. But I believe High Tension was after this, which is
that's the one that made
one of the big ones.
2003.
2003.
So several years after this, we would get what we would call the extreme gore from French people who used to never do stuff like this.
Yeah, the fact that we had to go from gore to extreme gore really says a lot. But yeah, I mean, even inspiring other things. I mean, the beginning of Ghost Ship with the taut wire. I mean, there's a lot of that in this. I mean, there's the whole feet thing, which can also be taken from Misery and everything else.
Yeah.
But you can see where it has influenced a lot of the gore films, especially where it doesn't show a lot, but it shows enough that you know what's going on.
And so while we're talking about this, because I really do want to make sure everyone is aware of this, that Japanese horror cinema has been extreme way longer than any other country, in my opinion. And I had to make sure I looked this up so I did not get what I'm about to say wrong. Because I could dates for some of the Japanese extreme gore. I kind of forget certain films because I don't watch them when they came out. But because this was in 99, I want to bring up another film that's kind of early, much earlier than this, with some of the type of same ideals with the gore, which is Evil Dead Trap from 88. And of course, in 92, they did Evil Dead Trap 2. Neither one of them are on our list to talk about on the podcast anytime soon, but for me, the Japanese cinema was putting out a lot of extreme gore films that
Well, I
just
mean, even like Battle Royale. I mean, like
Battle Royale.
the fact that these books existed long
Mhm.
before most of the movies too say a lot. I mean, even looking back at the culture, I mean, the whole act of seppuku and everything like that is very horrific. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is you can go on and on about this stuff, especially for Japanese horror,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, and Battle Royale only came out a year after this. So,
Yeah, exactly. It was very close. I know the books were probably
oh
released
yeah,
similar times, I want to say.
yeah. Which, by the way, I still have yet to read the book. I have the actual book. I have not read it yet. I need to sit down and read that. So, for everyone who's listening, I also read a lot of translated books from Japanese films. So it takes me a little bit while. I know I'm a slow reader, people. I'm not nearly as fast as Panazzo here, who reads all the time.
No, I don't. It's called audiobooks, Kevin, because it's easier while it's driving. And actually, Battle Royale, the book came out in April of 99.
Oh wow, they
So,
made that movie. Wow, really close to each other. Okay, interesting, interesting. But getting back to the film Audition, um, the reason why I say all this stuff is because, for this film at the time, it was probably a very subtle Japanese film compared to what was coming out before American audiences who did not get Evil Dead Trap when it was originally released, because I did not see that either one of those until years later when they finally made their way over here to the States. Audition was one of those rarities, in my opinion, that made it over here to the States due to the notoriety of and the popularity of the film when it came out. I'm assuming in popularity of it when it came out in Japan, because it got a theatrical release here. At least I saw
mhm.
it theatrically. Uh,
Yeah, it had a long line on a bunch of festival
okay,
circuits. I want to say it was a Toronto Film Festival.
okay,
It was one of the big film festivals it actually made its appearance at, and that was what really exploded it everywhere, and it started winning major awards at all of those small festivals.
yeah, and I always say this when I'm bringing this stuff up because I read so much of Fangoria that I guarantee you it's probably Fangoria I was reading this in when I read about the movie itself, because there just wasn't a lot of horror magazines out, and I religiously was a reader of that. But I also read a lot of other horror magazines as well. So I'm always assuming that that's where I read about this because they were so more progressive on these Japanese and foreign films. I mean, that's where I heard about High Tension
Hmm.
before, and I saw that at the theater before the whole French extreme cinema took hold for a short amount of time that it was took hold. These films were extreme or were thought to be extreme when they came out.
Yes.
Despite the fact that there were many films before it that were much more extreme than this one. I don't know why this one managed to cross over like it did, whereas other films before it did not. I'm glad from
I
you.
think that has to go with the I think that goes with the whole part where it doesn't show everything, which is why because like there's a lot of like Cannibal Holocaust where you see every single excruciating minute,
Mhm.
whereas this one hit a lot of it, and like I said, you see the before and the afters, but you don't see the durings, which probably helps a lot with it, especially with like MPA ratings and everything like that, and theatrical releases because a lot of that was limited. But I know this was the beginning of allowing that type of gore in theaters. And it is pretty tame. The situations that they show post effects imply the gruesomeness more, I think.
Okay.
And I think that's the only reason why it was able to cross, whereas a lot of them were not shown because of how visceral they were.
Oh yeah, I I would be I in '88 when Evil Dead Trap came out. I was like, I don't know how audiences would have taken to that movie.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of Evil Dead Trap. I think it's a little extreme for even me. I think the second one was a little bit more watchable, but either way, they are films that are kind of out there, and I've seen a lot of Japanese films that are out there. Uh, I don't think a lot of them are talked about enough in terms of film circles, horror film extreme cult lovers. Like I look at your face, Panaz, and I'm not even sure you've ever heard of Evil Dead Trap.
I wasn't. I was just Googling it and I was like, oh,
But I
oh,
do. What was that? So
I think my audio just finally caught up. But no, I was searching for it because I hadn't ever heard of it.
yeah. So I will say this for everyone out there: you can go down these deep rabbit holes of Japanese horror and cult cinema. They are one of the countries that has explored a little of everything in terms of horror. I know that there are a lot of films that don't cross over to the United States that often. You have to really dig, and you have to dig deep for them. We're lucky enough that the Evil Dead Trap movies have become a huge cult following, and they've been remade by multiple different major labels, and so there's some really good copies out there of it. So there's amazing copies of Audition out there. That this was readily available as well as streaming. This one's actually streaming. I don't think anyone's streaming Evil Dead Trap anywhere. You might have to definitely look for one of the really good versions out there to see Evil Dead Trap. I think you're more likely to find the sequels to Sudoku. No, not Sudoku. The what is the ring character? I can't even think of her name anymore. Those multiple sequels that's a franchise that never seems to die. The Ringu films and yeah. There's tons of those out there that you can find readily available. But I do want to implore people who have not seen this film to check it out, mostly because Mike has done some amazing early, rough, and gory and unusual films in his early career. Nowadays, he's kind of leveled back. Don't get me wrong, he's still doing some amazing work now, but he's also done some kids films and some he's kind of gone the Steven Spielberg route of doing a lot of films that kind of toe the line with his extreme earlier films, and they're more commercial. There we go. That's a good word. He's done a lot more commercial films. This one is kind of like right at the cusp of his commercial viability, and it's because of how extreme the ending is. And we have not discussed all the intricacies of the ending yet for many different reasons. I'm still trying to debate whether or not we should discuss all of the endings because it's such a gut punch, I guess is the best way.
Yes.
And I know there's people who have not seen this film, like you hadn't seen it before. So I do want to say it is a gut punch of an ending. So how much do you think we should say about the ending of this film? Because it's this is a rough one. Most films we talk about films that we know people have seen, and so talking about the endings is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and like
Right?
we said earlier, like based on when you possibly stop the movie, there are so many different possible endings to this movie. It can be all over the place. And I mean, we can just generally talk about
Let's
the scariness of them, unless you want to do one by one, or you can just say overall scariness.
You know what? That's a good point to say because throughout this film, you're not really scared, but there is a lot of tension, a lot of suspense
Yes.
in this final act. It is done in a way that you will think that the rest of the film before it is subtle, but the moment that Asami shows up at his house, and she has a plan.
Yes.
I guess is the best way to describe it. A plan for him.
And it very much is a roller coaster of, you could almost just say they're all dream sequences. I would say a roller coaster of dream sequences where you get the crazy, rough and gritty, whatever, and then all of a sudden it'll cut to a more relaxed, and then it'll cut to a more suspenseful, and then it'll go back to violent, and it bounces around so fast.
Yeah,
You can get whiplash just watching the ending.
yeah.
But it is so well done that it is totally worth the effort.
Yeah, it is definitely worth the effort and very tragic as well.
Yes.
And it's not just it's for both characters. It's tragic for both characters. And I think that's what the film does successfully, in my opinion. It's like I said, my thing about this movie is this is about two people who just
Yeah, because we haven't even talking about her whole situation, which I think is just best left to the actual movie. But it does make you sympathetic for both characters. Uh, but yeah, it is very intense.
it's it does, and it does a really good job too. This is like, you know what we always say in a lot of horror movies. A lot of movies they fizzle out in the third act. They fizzle out. But with this film here, this film doesn't fizzle out. It amps it up 110%.
Well, and I don't know if you watched Shudder's 101 Scariest Moments, but number 4 is the last 30 minutes of this movie.
Really, I did not know
The
that.
whole chunk, the last 30 minutes is number 4.
Okay, did not know that. Well, there you go. I guess that's the reason why we should not discuss the whole thing, because
Yeah.
if you have not seen the film, we do not want to ruin this ending for this film. This film it's a gut punch. But I think
The one thing I will mention, because I know that a lot of people are very sensitive to does the dog die? There is the briefest little cut that shows the dog dead. I know it is not as bad as in the book, but just be aware that they do show a murdered dog.
that's a good point. That's a good point because
That is the one warning I will give.
yeah, you know what? That's a good warning to say because like my wife won't watch films where the dog dies. She's too much of a pet and dog lover. She can't. She doesn't even want to watch films where a dog is the main character because she can't do it. So, and if you have
Well,
that,
and like they imply it earlier, and I was like, even with the implication, you know
yeah,
what's going to happen, but then they take that step beyond, like they have with so much more of this movie, is they give you the little breadcrumbs,
yes,
and then they shove the whole cake in your face.
yeah. So for all our listeners out there, we are not going to go into details about the ending of this movie because we want to leave it for your own interpretation, and that's actually a good thing because of the multiple different ideals that you can have while watching it. We do not want to go into those details. Normally, if it was normal film ending, we might do that, but this one is almost left up to slightly your own interpretation, and we don't want to ruin that. This movie is too good for us to ruin it for you by explaining everything or explaining our interpretations of it for you. We don't want to color your outlook on that. We want you to have your own opinions about it. Uh, yeah, you may like to hear us talk about stuff like that, but there are certain things in certain movies that we absolutely think that you, an audience member, will enjoy if you are watching it for the very first time and not having our opinions color your enjoyment of the film. So,
And it's one of those things that, like, even though this has been my first time watching this movie, I went in knowing that it started off as like a rom-com and then it got aggressive near the end. But I did not know the full situation as to how it all takes place or the extraneous bits. I mean, everybody's seen the movie cover, so you get the implication, but it is definitely worth watching and experiencing the rest of the movie blind.
I'm trying to remember if I ever saw a poster for this when I originally saw the movie.
I was going to ask, how did they even market this movie? Did they market it as a
I
horror movie or was it?
I don't remember. The theater I used to go to used to have these quarterly papers that they would put out all the films that they would have that are foreign films or specialty films, and they would only play for 1 week. They wouldn't play for more than a week. They play for 1 week, and you had to see within that week, and it's gone. And that's how I saw this movie. I remember this because I used to go through that paper every quarter and circle every movie that I was going to go see because the theater was right down the street from my house. And that's how I saw all these movies. I don't think I ever saw a trailer for this. I don't think I ever saw the actual poster for this movie. I think I literally just saw the advertisement in this quarterly newspaper. I circled it and went to go see it because I had read about it in like Fangoria or one of the other horror magazines I used to read at the time. I think that's how I saw this movie. The
Yeah.
poster now seems a little bit more the image that most people are associated with the movie now seems a little bit more modern and not necessarily the original poster for when the movie came out. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
I just have no clue. I know I've never seen a trailer for it. Even now, I never saw a trailer for it. I literally read about it and went to go see it.
Yeah, no, same. Like I said, I've seen the poster for it a ton where she's on the front with the wire, but that's about as much as I knew outside of the starts as a rom-com, ends as a slaughterhouse.
Which is so funny when you say it because I never thought of it like that. Like I haven't talked about this film with a lot of my horror friends because a lot of my horror friends haven't seen it. Like you hadn't seen it before watching
Hmm.
the show. They hadn't seen it one because it was a foreign film and you had to watch subtitles. Um, and so it's not a film I've talked a lot about outside of probably ever really. I
Well,
mean,
and that's why I love watching these movies with you, Kevin, because I end up talking to other people about these things. They're like, I've never even heard of this. And I was like, well, you should, because it's totally worth it.
oh Jesus! So now you can go out there and watch some of these other Japanese horror films that I've watched.
Oh, I already do. I remember watching The Wailing and
Yep.
what was the other big one that came out last year or the year before? Exuma.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'm all here for it. I loved watching The Ring, or not The Ring, but Ring.
Iku.
But yeah, I mean, it's such a different vibe, and it's all over the place. I love watching foreign horror. You get stuff all over the place from comedy to tragedies
Yeah,
just with horror alone, and it's definitely worth it. I mean, I watch movies with subtitles anyway, so it's nothing new.
yeah. For me, I watched a ton of subtitle movies. It's nothing. I got used to that when I was in college. Thank God. One of the great things about college that my teachers told me to go out and watch more foreign films because I guarantee you before college I had never watched a foreign film where I had to read the subtitles ever. I hadn't even seen any of the silent movies where I had to read the subtitles for silent movies. Until I went to film school, and that's one of the great things. Now I have a love for foreign films. I watch films from all over the world, and thankfully, horror is the one that translates the easiest for
Yes.
almost every country in the world. There is horror films because they translate so easily to other cultures. So I'm glad, or I'm hoping that more people get to watch this film. We're not gonna ruin it for you if you haven't, because unfortunately for me, I know there is a lot of people who have not seen this movie, despite the fact that I think everyone should have seen this movie. My elitism, I know it comes out every once in a while. Uh,
I was gonna say you can go the cheesy route and be like, just give this movie an audition, especially with this podcast. I mean,
oh Jesus! That being said, since we're not discussing the ending of the film, is there anything else we need to touch upon for this film audition?
I did want to point out that in January of last year, there is a reported adaptation in the works by the guy who directed and wrote Speak No Evil in 2022. So the original one, Christian Taftroup, I believe it is. But yeah, so he is working on a direct from the book adaptation. He said he doesn't want to remove or re-release what the movie originally was, but he thinks that there is much more material in the
Oh yeah.
book to cover. So that is what he is working on. So we could possibly have a similar one coming in the next couple of years.
So this being said, I believe that the ideal for the book it could be a completely different type of movie because the interpretation would be completely different. I see that the same way that they did with the Ringu book and the sequels to the Ringu. I've read all the books and they could never do the books as movies the way that they are originally written because they're more science based than they are horror. It's so odd that Ringu. Did you ever read the book? I don't think you.
I haven't. It's been on my list,
So the entire
but
series,
I have wanted to.
yeah, well, the entire series of Ringu books I see is like a Japanese version of a Michael Crichton book. Like you couldn't really do a Michael Crichton book.
It's Sphere all over again.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's so much science and ideals in these books that trying to copy the book may not make an interesting movie,
Yes.
or it would make it a different type of movie. And it's the same. Oh, the same as what happens between the Thing from Another Planet versus John Carpenter's The Thing. One is a heavy science fiction film. One's a horror film.
Hmm.
Same ideals, completely different movie. I think you can make it work with Audition. I think the hardest thing about Audition is trying to make this story work in the post Me Too era. I think
Well, and so that's the interesting thing I saw is a lot of people were saying this would probably be the best time to make it
uh,
because of that, and because now it makes more sense. Whereas in the
oh
90s,
yeah.
nobody could identify with it, but now from this sense, you can identify with either character.
Oh, you have to toe the line with the male characters though. You have to be very
Well,
careful.
and that's where I said if you have one-dimensional characters, we know who you're rooting for this entire movie. But if it is a lot more like his friend is the scumbag and he's just like, you know what, okay, maybe we're setting up the next Bachelor or something else, and he happens to meet somebody instead of it being skeezy, then it could totally be which side.
Yeah. I could see. I know. I think right now you might be right. Then right now would probably be the perfect time to remake this, this story. I think.
Yeah, it very much falls under the good for her category of horror films, but it definitely toes the line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does. And I will say this though. For you who are watching this, pay attention to like the flashback scenes with her and her ballet sequences and stuff like that because those scenes make you feel more for her character and what happens to her and why she is the way she is. We didn't touch upon that, but that's part of her.
Understanding the movie.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
part of yeah. Yeah. So, uh, with that, everyone, what we love to do is we love to rate the movie from 1 to 5, and we do it based on something that we find in the film, an object or a quote or saying or something like that is what we rate our movies by. 1 being very poor, 5 being amazingly excellent. Where on the spectrum, Panazzo, do you place Audition? And what object or thing or saying do you use?
I'm going to say I give it 4 feet and 4 toes out of 5 feet. I'm taking away 1 toe just for the vomit scene. That's the only part I didn't like of this entire movie. I hated the characters I was supposed to hate. I loved the characters I was supposed to love. It was genius shot. It's beautifully shot. The costumes are brilliant with what they do with her character and just prosthetics, gore, all of the effects. Genius. But I got to take away 1 toe for that vomit scene. And the dog. And the dog. It'll be a big toe. It won't be the pinky toe. It'll be the big toe.
So I'm gonna give it a 4.5. Men in very large sacks. So I mean for well, they're already half to begin with, I guess. So I guess it's gonna work as well as I can say it works since they're already.
Just say one of them's in a wheelchair in a sack. It's fine.
I've always loved this movie, and it's my favorite movie of Miike's. So I wish that over the last 26 years, I had actually told more people about the film. I just realized while we're doing the show, obviously, that I had not talked about this film because it was a foreign language film, and a lot of my friends don't watch subtitle movies. And so I've just realized I haven't told a lot of people about this movie, and I wish I had. But that being said, I have read a lot about Miike's films, early films, and I have unfortunately gone have not caught up with a lot of stuff. He has done too much shit. Like he is like a nonstop force to be reckoned with, just like Asami in this movie. He's done so many different movies, so many genres, so many styles. I don't know if he has a particular style. I've read books about his films, and for me, if you go from one genre to the next, you don't really see his style. He kind of morphs into whatever style is needed for that particular film. there are films of his that are not as subtle as this movie at all. They are extreme, and then he does the random kids movie or a musical. He's done that too. So I do like to say that if you've never seen any of Miike's films, this one definitely should be one that you see first. But then explore some of his more recent films. If you want to go more extreme into his filmography, check out a lot of the stuff that he did that was earlier than this film. He shot a lot on video, which means it's raw, it's rough, and when you're watching it, you're gonna feel that griminess and that of his cinema, his early cinema, and it's good. It's good. And if you thought Audition was a mind fuck, you should watch some of his other films. He was really easy with doing that with audiences because he just kind of did whatever he wanted to do. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us on Conversations in Horror. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation in which we discussed the film Audition from 1999. Please make sure to check out previous episodes that we've done. We've done a lot of great episodes prior to this, and we are just scratching the surface with foreign language films. So please check those out if you are a foreign film lover. If not, we hope that after hearing this conversation, you will kind of jump into the cold waters with us and just enjoy some of the great movies out there that are from other different countries. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, please make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And please make sure to check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which is every first and third Friday of the month. We delve deep into those great 60s and 70s and 80s Hammer Studio films. If you like classic cinema, you're going to love that podcast. Make sure to check it out, and we will see you on the next episode. Ready and willing, unless you are the person in the bag. Have a great day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production. Written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Executive producer, Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.